with no accountability to the American people. Let me be clear. Elon Musk has absolutely no business handling the personal information of American taxpayers, period. Rest assured, we will not stand by and let Donald Trump and Elon Musk violate your privacy and dismantle the programs you rely on in order to enrich themselves and their billionaire friends.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for Yellowhammer Now. Let's talk a little bit about the National Institute of Health and how their budget cuts are going to kill everyone that you know. This, of course, is being said by, completely ridiculous human beings in the great state of Alabama and beyond. Now, the clip you just saw has nothing to do with this. It's Terri Sewell, but I use it for a reason. She's talking about Elon Musk wanting to steal your Social Security number, open up credit cards in your name, and steal your Social Security check. I share that because not even she believes that incredibly stupid thing that she is saying, but she's willing to stand up in front of cameras and make that argument knowing she will get no pushback and there will be no consequences for that lie she is telling, not from her constituents and not from the media. Now, if we want to talk about irrelevant and ridiculous, borderline moronic politicians in the state of Alabama, look no further than Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin. This guy really believes that any cuts to the National Institute of Health, that will lead to people dying. Because any cut to anything will lead to people dying. There is really no other way for us to make any argument ever except to say you want people to die. This sounds ridiculous because it absolutely is. But not only is it being used in this argument, it's also being used in talks about cutting USAID. Yes, if you do that, people in Uganda will die of AIDS.
Been providing to us. So we are now looking at an increase in infections, a decrease in suppression. We are looking at a decrease in care, and also many people are now going to become infected since they will no longer be able to access lubricants, condoms, self-testing kits. We would always look at the United States as something that we would always run to.
You are responsible for giving them lubricants and condoms. And if not, people will die. That is your fault. And remember, any cut to federal spending will kill people. That's as simple as I can make it. Eliminate the Department of Education, they will scream about how kids won't be able to eat at school, even though it's not even funded through the Department of Education. That's a USDA program. But do not let the facts get in the way, because no one's going to allow that to happen. This is where John Archibald enters the program. Yes, John Archibald is an AL.com columnist. You may recognize him from, nowhere, because nobody knows who he actually is. He is a columnist for AL.com. What he does is he repackages the arguments being made by the coastal elites, puts a couple y'alls in there, and talks about his father being a Southern preacher. We're all supposed to find that very compelling. I don't, especially when he goes on television and lies.
The University of Alabama at Birmingham, which has received more than $1 billion in NIH funds in recent years. We're seeing similar funding fears in other states like Georgia, Nebraska, Wisconsin. Joining us, John Archibald, columnist at AL.com. How large a chunk is that $1 billion for the University of Alabama, Birmingham? And what could be the impact if it does go away?
Yeah, it's huge. They're talking about $100 million a year, essentially, which is a lot of money in as you said, a deep red state, a very Trump state right here in the Bible Belt that does a really terrible job of taking care of its sick people, with the exception of UAB, perhaps. But it powers the entire economy of the largest metro in the state. And there's been, quite frankly, a lot of silence about it.
Well, both U.S. senators from Alabama, Katie Britt and Tommy Tuberville, I don't have to tell you, are Republicans. So they haven't had anything to say about these NIH cuts?
Katie Britt has hinted that the cuts should be considered carefully, which is, I guess, as good as we can hope for at this point. It was a pretty milquetoast thing, I would say a scaredy cat sort of protest.
So when Archibald goes on MSNBC and he's talking to the host of this program, that guy has to remind Archibald that the simple fact is Katie Britt did, in fact, speak on this issue. They even have a graphic up where they show Katie Britt and Tommy Tuberville because she has spoke on it. And Archibald, after saying they haven't, has to acknowledge that, yes, Britt has spoke on this and said we need to actually use the funding that is there and use it correctly because it's the people's money. After Archibald is reminded of this, he has to then go on the attack and say that that's not a good enough statement because it doesn't say we should never cut a single dollar, not a single percentage, not even the overhead at the National Institutes of Health can be cut because if they are, people will die. It is all the same argument over and over and over again, and it's why nobody believes it. If you didn't make this argument about absolutely everything at all times, maybe you would have a case you can make, but you've torched your credibility, mostly by running guys like John Archibald out there on point. John Archibald needs to be in Brookwood, Alabama, chasing down cops who are writing speeding tickets that they shouldn't be writing. That is his role. National politics, sorry, John, that's not for you. You have no impact and you aren't very smart. And on top of that, you're wildly dishonest. Now, you fit in there, but you just don't have the right kind of face to be on television to push these messages. Trust me, I understand that greatly. But I want you to also understand another thing. You can tell the truth. It's okay. You can come out and say these cuts are bad for UAB. These cuts are bad for UAH. In Birmingham and in Huntsville, this could really hurt those institutions. And it could also hurt the people that live there. Make that argument and explain why the work there is important. That's what you should be doing. Not suggesting that this is some sort of murder scheme by the people in Washington, D.C. They are trying to align the government with the vision the people elected. It's done with out-of-control spending, and instead, they're going to do smart spending. That's what Katie Britt is talking about. You know that. You said that. After saying that nobody cared and nobody was doing anything, you then acknowledge that, yes, people do care and people are doing things to make sure that things that need to be funded can be funded. Stop lying. That's the big problem here. The media and their Democrats, which are the exact same thing, have lost the public and can no longer make these arguments with any credibility. That's your problem. Stop lying. Get your credibility back, be reasonable, and then maybe people will listen to you. Yes, you'll get invited on MSNBC to say Alabama sucks. Congratulations. But nobody who matters is listening to a thing you say. These cuts are going to go forward. They have to be targeted. They have to be smart. You can either engage in the conversation that matters, or you can continue lying and be left out.